Welcome back. It's been a while. That's my motto by now. It's been a while because every time I show up, it's like for a few videos and then I just disappear because I have no time or motivation to make a video. But this time it's different because I've been noticing that every time I want to make a video about something, it's mostly about knitting, knitting and sewing. And well, I'm not a seamstress nor a professional knitter. These are just my hobbies. I do illustration for a living, and I'm noticing that I kind of want to gush about things that aren't part of my job. And so I decided that I'm gonna spice up my little space here with more things that make me like excited to talk about something rather than things that are part of my job. That, and I really don't have anyone to talk about knitting. Just sweaters, like yarn and knitting objects. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this. For the most part, I'm gonna ramble until I can't anymore. And for the first video, I wouldn't call this a series, but for the first video related to knitting, I want to show off all of the sweaters that I made. Most of them have kind of met their demise by being either frogged or, well, I've gifted some away. Like, I haven't, like, demise sounds maybe too scary. Some of them I've frogged, some of them I've gifted, and there's maybe like a third of them that remain for myself. If I have to pick a starting point, I probably have to like talk a little bit as to how I got into knitting. My earliest memory is like of when I was 4 years old or 5, and I was left to my grandma for like, so she would watch over me or like a babysit. And I knew she knit. I knew she had like knitting supplies. She embroidered as well, but she was a very busy lady. She had a lot of house things to take care of. She had a job as well, and there wasn't really any time for her to sit me down and like show me the ropes. So I remember her casting on stitches, and I'm like, that's too complicated for my like small child brain. But then she gave me the thing, and then she showed me how to do knits and purls, or maybe just knits and then front and back and forth, and so it creates the garter stitch. And I was blown away. That was so amazing to me, but my tension was wrong. I didn't know how to hold the needles properly. I probably thought that I could knit a scarf much quicker than what my capacity was at the time, which was like very small amount of stitches per minute. So I think I dropped that, and I didn't think about knitting for maybe like 10, 12 or so years later. I remember in high school, once I had a computer of my own, which was in middle school, I remember seeing Threadbanger. Props if you remember what that is, but I remember seeing Corinne from Threadbanger way back before YouTube was a thing. I think they had a blog, or they were in a completely different craft space on the internet. And I remember her showing a slouchy. Oh, those were the days of the slouchy hat. I remember her showing a slouchy hat that she had crocheted. And I was like, oh my god, is this knitting? Is it finally time for me to start knitting? And no, it was crochet. And I was like, wow, this looks way easier. Like, right, they have like the one hook, the object contains itself. There's like one stitch at all times, so it's like you can't drop them off. And I went to the yarn store at the time with my little allowance, and I purchased one hook. And I purchased just some random yarn color, like it was like a mix of purple and gray, I even remember that. And then started like struggling, determining, like I had no idea what a gauge was. Like Corinne just introduced it as this is how you knit a slouchy hat, and she just says cast on this amount of stitches and then just like knit in the round for a little bit. And I just started doing that, and oh my god, it became giant. It became like a huge like oven pan sized hat, and I just like flopped it on my hand. I was like, this is good, right? And for the longest time I struggled with crochet. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I didn't even know what kind of questions to ask to like explain why gauge was so off, or why the things I was knitting were loose or big. I didn't know what stitch names were. I just knew kind of like what a single crochet was, but I wasn't entirely sure I was doing it right. So some time passed. I probably crocheted a couple more things. I couldn't really figure it out, and maybe like I want to say like 7 or 8 years later, when I was in university. Yeah, I was in university, maybe like in 2013, 2014, and then for the first time, well, it wasn't for the first time, but I saw a hat on the internet, which now that I'm thinking about it, was probably machine knit. I saw a beanie that had like these really fun stripes on its lower part, and then it transitions into a solid color, and then it had like the nicest, thickest little pom-pom at the top. I was like, oh my god, I have to have this beanie somehow. And obviously this beanie was like some like I don't know, boutique, like a boutique item someone had made for like a collection. It was on Pinterest, and I was like, I need to figure out how to make this beanie because I really want to own them. And I looked up how to knit a beanie, and people had I should know this. People had circular needles, the Addy ones that are 4 or 5 or 6 millimeters, and I just purchased them. They were like really expensive, like just the singular circular needles. But this is how I got into knitting. I knit something like 120 beanies, and I sold almost all of them. Maybe 120 is even low ballpark. I feel like they were like more than that, but I'd like to think 200 because there were a lot of unsuccessful ones in the beginning, and then there were the successful ones, and then I had some leftovers that I didn't count anymore or didn't like add to my collection of like pictures that I've taken of each one of them. I'll probably insert like an image here of all of the, well, not all of them, but like a good amount of the beanies that I've like saved in image form that I can show off. They were really goofy. They were a lot of like DK yarns held double, knit throughout. They're very slouchy. I didn't even know at the time, but my knit stitches were twisted, so I wasn't knitting through the back loop, but I was yarning in a counterclockwise way or something like that, and my knit stitches were all twisted, so when you stretch them out they would like retract in themselves, which is fine. You can do that, especially if you're doing like a twisted ribbing. When you do your whole garment like that, it ends up being slanted to one side. I really didn't know that. I was like, oh, this looks normal. Like when it's like it's in its non-stretch way, it was like super fine. So for the most part, I learned how to knit through those beanies, and I think in 2019, my good friend Lena said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna knit myself a sweater. And I was like, you know, that's so intimidating. Like, how are you even gonna do that? She's like, well, I'm gonna learn. And then she picked up some really nice yarn and she started knitting. And I was like, I need to get on that like immediately. And up until that point, I've only knitted beanies. I don't even know if I've knitted a scarf or anything else. It was all just like quick projects. I could like churn out the beanie in 2 hours. It was that quick for me, and it was very tiresome for the hands. So around 2019, I picked up my first yarn, which was this brown yarn you'll see later, and with some white, very much acrylic. Like the bulk of it was like acrylic with a little bit of wool in there. And I started knitting, let me see what it is actually. Started knitting a colorwork sweater because that's what she was doing. And I was like, oh, well, I need to be on the same wavelength here. Like I need to talk to her about knitting somehow. So I started knitting the Fern and Feather sweater, which I'll probably insert an image here. It's a sweater that went nowhere. It was so very tight. It looked fine, but it was so stuffy. Like at this point, I didn't really have any option to find yarn that would fit my project. I just went to the store, which was really small in my town, and I just picked out the one yarn that sort of looked good to me, that wasn't like a very shocking color or texture, and I picked that, and it didn't work well, and I ended up scrapping the yarn, rather like unraveling it and knitting something else with it. And a little bit after that, I actually knit my very first sweater that ended up being complete, and it's called, let me check, it's also on Ravelry. It's called Summer Ella Solo, and it's this lovely lace sweater that has these leaves here. I'll also show it here, the finished version of what I've made, with these really pretty leaves. But that as well was not very successful because of those said slanted, twisted knit stitches. And the sweater started like draping very poorly in bad places when washed. And I was like, I love this color, but I don't love this sweater. I really don't reach for it. So that too got frogged. I also untangled unraveled the whole thing, and I repurposed the yarn. I have a lot of frogged things now that I think about it. I'll probably that probably needs like a chatty dedicated video of its own. I love starting things, but when I see them going nowhere, I'm just like, life's too short to waste time on this sweater. I need to like progress. I need to go further. I've learned all I can here. This is not working out for me. Moving on. I swear I started the Birkin sweater like 2 or 3 times now. Like I really want to have a sweater like that, but it's just not working out. My yarn choices are bad. My technique is bad. I really hate holding three strands in the color work. So yeah. So sometime after the Sommer Ella sweater, I found this pattern called Aquamarine or Merline. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And it's this lovely like leftovers sweater by Park Williams, where you hold all kinds of scraps together and you like marl them, and it's like a bottom-up construction with a raglan seam. And those were the first sweaters that actually lived to see the light of day, and I knit 2 of them at that time, one of which is this one, and this one went to my bestie. So like my first ever sweater that was like completely finished and ready to be worn went to my bestie, and I'm so happy because she really enjoyed it and cherishes, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So that was one of the sweaters. Then I made a second one, which I didn't really wear much, and I think I donated it. But it's still a very cute sweater. It's this one here. And a little bit after that, I'm like looking at my Ravelry history. A little bit after that, I decided, hey, I'm just gonna make a sweater based on my like intuition and construction, and with the little knowledge that I have of knit purl and like bottom-up raglan, I constructed my first own pattern, which is called the Scrappy Stripe, which is like the sleeves are just whatever leftover yarn you have in like inconsistent stripe sizes, and the body is just all white, and you just connect it from here upwards. It's pretty bad. I haven't taken it down yet because there are some people that have made it and it's really sweet, and I don't want to lose track of that, and I don't want to you know, miss out on any of those like little updates. It's kind of like I'm embarrassed that it's there, but I'm also really happy that people have given it an attempt, and maybe it like pushed people to knit more. So after all of this, there's like still no physical sweater to show you, but now we reach a point where after all my unsuccessful attempts, or after all my like learning sweaters that didn't really see fruition or are available right now, we come to the first sweater that actually did, and it's a little bit of a sad story, but this is the first sweater that I knit for myself. It's a pretty small, seemingly small looking sweater. This is the no frill sweater by Petite Knit, and I don't even know, I should have made some short rows, I feel like. This is my first time making short rows, maybe. I can't tell. So the problem with this sweater is it wasn't this small to begin with, and here is the photo of what it looked like. The problem is that this is my first, I'm blanking out a little bit. Like my first experiences with really rustic live wool. This is made with Donegal, I think it's called, tweed yarn, which when it washes it blooms like magically. It's like this sort of like oiled up from spinning tweed yarn that's kind of unpleasant when you knit with it. At least I don't like it, but then when you wash it, it becomes like this soft, like sort of sweet rustic feel. And my mom, I finished this back home with when I was with my parents, and my mom was looking at me like carefully washing the thingy and placing it on the floor and blocking it. And she's like, "You're not gonna do this every time now, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you kind of have to with this sweater." And one of the days when I had thrown it for washing, because we have like a mutual washing bin, and I just left it there until it's time to hand wash it again. She's like, "Hey, you know what? I have a wool setting on my washing machine. How about we throw it in?" I was like, kind of really don't want to, Mom. Like, this is gonna shrink. Like, it says it's gonna shrink if you throw it in the washing machine. She's like, "What is gonna happen? It's a wool setting. You can't be this precious with it." And yeah, I did. I threw it in the washing machine, and it shrunk, and it's incredibly tiny. And I might as well show you. Like, I might as well like try it out. It's so tiny that I don't even know if it fits me. Like, I haven't worn this in like ages, and it's because it's so small. I'm used to such like wide boxy cuts of sweaters. Look at it. my sleeve used to be up to here. It wasn't too long, but holy smokes, did it shrink. Oh, and a fun fact, I at some point decided that I'm gonna expand the sleeve a little bit more, so I knitted all of these extra rounds here, which are in, if you can see, I'm gonna get up there. They look, this is how the yarn looks pre-washed, and this is how it looks when it felted. I don't know how to get to this to look like this without having to like throw it in the washing machine. I don't know why my camera turned off. So I was saying, I don't know how to get this to look like this without having to throw it in the washing machine, and that's kind of why I stopped and haven't finished the other side. I don't even have enough yarn, I feel like, so I'm not sure I can save this. Maybe I will just finish the other side, and this will be a sweater for a very small child. If I ever get to see one, meet one that can have this. Please tell me if somebody knows. Please tell me what happens to this yarn if you multiply wash it, like if you wash it multiple times in the washing machine. Like, is it gonna like keep shrinking and becoming like doll-sized and stiff and like I don't know, but I really would like to. So this is like this was my pride and joy. I was so happy with this sweater prior to it shrinking, and now it's just a very clear reminder of why I will never throw like a non-superwash woolen sweater in the washing machine ever again. So yeah, let me just take this little bad boy off. I'm really happy with it though. At the time, now I'm sad. I'm really happy with this one. So yeah, shortly after that, I decided again to make my own sweater, my own pattern. Something that I really wanted was a drop sleeve boxy sweater that was stripy. I feel like I saw a picture somewhere on the internet that had like a mostly white sweater, but like all kinds of like little neutral colors, like in a thinner line knit among it, and that's where this one comes in. But instead of the neutrals, I wanted to knit a very playful, fun, colorful sort of like sweater that has a different choice of color for the ribbings, different choice of color for the neck rib, and like all of this throughout the whole thing. It's a really good sweater, honestly. I'm actually really happy with it now. Like seeing it again, I've made some really nice touches here. Like I've Kitchener stitched the top of the sweater. So the sweater is made by knitting, starting from the bottom, knitting in the round, separating here at the underarm, knitting the front, knitting the back, and then I Kitchener stitched the top. You can kind of see, maybe not so clear. I think I did a good job. And then I finished off with the neckband, and then I picked up all of the stitches here that I needed for the sleeves, and I slowly but surely, didn't even weave the ends, slowly but surely decreased as it went down. So the problem with this, this is gonna be a pattern here. The problem with this sweater, or rather it's not really a problem, but it's kind of like I made this entirely out of sock yarn. So it's like 75% wool, which is really very rusticy, very itchy, and 25% nylon, which is great for structure. I can throw this in the washing machine, no problem. It's pretty much retained its look throughout the whole thing. but it's warm and a little itchy, and I do have to wear it with something underneath. It doesn't really bother me that much. I feel like I'm fine with like mostly like with rustic sweaters. I get used to it over time and it doesn't bug me. Maybe when I'm sick, it's not a deal. So pretty good fit, if I have to be honest. Kind of proud. But this is this sweater. I don't know if I said so already, but I called it childhood because it reminds me of those. There was these mechanical pencils when I was a kid that had these like little rings that you could like unscrew the bottom part of the pencil and you can take them out and rearrange them. I don't know if that was like a feature of the ring or anything, but I love doing that, and this is what this reminds me of with these like different colored stripes. So yeah, this is what this sweater looks like. It's again pretty cropped, looks really good with jeans. I am pretty happy with it. I need to give it more wear this winter. It's still a very cute sweater. I'm very happy with it. It's very playful. At one point I felt like I should probably like donate this or sell it or give it to someone who will wear it more, because I think I only wore it like once last year. But shame on me, honestly, shame on me. I should love this more. It's a nice sweater, and I feel like I can even repeat this pattern with something else, maybe like a V-neck this time around, something more balloony in the sleeves, because this was kind of tight. I think maybe I snitched it a little bit too much. Should have remained a little bit wider, because now I know that when I wash dishes or something like that, I like to like roll up my sleeves a little bit, and this is a little tight. So yeah. Oh, it smells really good. It smells like my mom's detergent. Thanks, Mom, for not ruining this sweater. So yeah. Next on the list is a cardigan. It's actually my first cardigan ever. It's called the Reluctant Homeschooler by, I want to say it was by Kate from Hunter. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna probably have like links to all the sweaters that I talk about if I figure out also how to do chapters for each of them, because this is turning out to be quite a long video. So I don't have the Reluctant Homeschooler anymore because I gifted it away, but it was a pretty nice pattern. I feel like I just didn't have enough yarn for it, which is a tendency. Most of my sweaters are an extreme game of yarn chicken, and I'm always like, hey, can I like nick the sleeve a little bit more so I can get the length, or can I substitute something here and there with like whatever I have left over, and like nobody will notice. So this is the Reluctant Homeschooler, if I haven't shown it already. I really enjoy it. I feel like if I were to knit this again, I wouldn't add the pockets because they bulked up a lot in this area here, which is kind of not what I want or like. So yeah, after that, now that I knew how to make a bottom-up cardigan, I made this little number. I just called it the Chunky Buster. It's again a cardigan that's knit bottom up, or maybe it was knit in panels. Now that I look at it, I think it was knit in panels because it's from all kinds of leftovers, especially acrylics. At this point, I really wanted to kind of get rid of all of my acrylic yarn and replace it with a little bit better fiber contents. One, because I didn't appreciate how acrylic yarn expands and grows when you wash it, and two, because I found that I like knits that are a little bit smaller but warmer, so that's why I needed wool to tickle my fancy a little bit more there. So yeah, this is the Chunky Buster, or that's what I called it, and I think I sold it. It ended up being a little bit small on me, so I think I sold it in the end to afford more yarn. A little bit after that was, I think, around Christmas time last year, I made a second cardigan. That was again kind of like my own little creation. I don't even remember how I made it, but I called it the Zucchini Cardigan, and it's again with some leftover acrylics, some sock yarn, and you knit the sleeves separately, and I think I held two strands of sock yarn together, maybe. yeah, for the yellow parts of the cardigan. I held 2 strands of sock yarn together, and then I joined them here, and it also has like raglan seams. And I also gifted it to my bestie. Thank you, bestie, for taking off all of my like wild experiments off my hands. It's really sweet of you. When that thing was finished, I immediately casted on this big thing. It's honestly quite the good sweater, but it's made of everything that was left over at that point, all the acrylics that I had, all of the colors that I didn't want to touch. There's like, I think I'm holding 3 strands of yarn at all times throughout the sweater. It's again a drop shoulder cropped sweater, very bulky, grew immensely in the wash, but it's fine because it's very cozy and I like it a lot. I like the color a lot. I called it the Dust Bunny because it kind of looks like whatever you'd find under the bed. Look at it. It's such a color scheme, but it's pretty good. It fits me well. I feel like it fits well with jeans. It fits well with like all kinds of other colored pants, like solids. I never weaved any of the ends. Like all of this just like is gonna stay, and then it's gonna remind me to not do one of these again. Or if I do, I should like weave the ends as I go, because this is a nightmare. Like I didn't even like leave enough tails for me to weave in. Everything is just like loosely tied. Hope it never cuts apart. One can hope. But yeah, this is the sweater. I even like I haven't washed it. I need to wash this thing. It was in my bin for like the longest time. Sorry about that. But yeah, this is the sweater. It's pretty fun. Honestly, can't complain. It's a really nice sweater. I enjoy it a lot. Yeah? Yeah. So yeah, this was knit in, I'm pretty sure I knit the front panel, the back panel, and I did that because I wanted to have like a clear distinction here, and I also wanted to make sort of like equal thicknesses of these stripe-ish marled things, and it wouldn't have ended the way I wanted it if I had knitted in the round and then separated here. So yeah, knit the panels, stitched them again here. I'm not sure how. Feels like it's Kitchener again because I don't feel a seam. Kitchener stitched, very similar to the childhood pullover. I just did the same assembly, just with different gauge, and this is what I got, and honestly, quite good. I'm quite happy with it. Should get some more wear out of this bad boy this year. And honestly, I have these moments where I'm like, oh, you know, like don't attempt such colorful sweaters, because in the end I keep gravitating to like a creamy white, beige, ivory, neutral cardigan or sweater, some of the ones that are store-bought and I still have in my wardrobe. And then I see something like really colorful and I'm like, I need to have this. I still don't have like a proper finished colorwork sweater, but I just can't help but like fawn over them whenever someone like makes their own. I always want to have like every kind of sweater, even though I don't stylistically wear all of them as much as I would like to. So yeah, what else? I feel like I will make something like this again. I have like this yarn ball where I'm like gathering all of my fingering weight scraps, and it's like a gobstopper ball, I think it's called. Like I keep just tying knots and like magic knots and then like rolling it up. And if this ball ends up becoming giant, like let's say it's like 200-300 grams, I'm probably like just gonna combine it with like another strand of like whitish yarn, and then just knit one of these again, but like just in a smaller yarn weight. Can't get used to it. It's fun. It's a fun thing to knit. It's a fun project to like tackle your leftovers with. So yeah. So this was from last year in November, I want to say. I think that was around the time where Petite Knit, which I can't stop gushing about her patterns, but that's pretty much the person who taught me how to knit indirectly. Everything I know is from Petite Knit patterns. It's It's amazing. I'm so happy with every one of my purchases from her there. And I think around this time last year, or like rather in November last year, she came up with a sweater called Festival Sweater, which is this lovely little top-down yoke sweater that has like a sort of garland. Garland? Is that what you call, like a bunting sort of that goes around it every so often on each stripe. And I made one for my mom, which is this one, and I sent it to her for Christmas. And of course I didn't give her anything woolen because she wouldn't enjoy washing that. So I gave her something with like cheaper acrylics that I had at the time. And then I decided, well, I really wanted to make a sweater like that for myself, and I only finished it like last week. So this has been sitting with just one sleeve, that sleeve island thing. It's been sitting with one sleeve for a whole year, and now it's done. And it looks like a gingerbread cookie. At least that's what everyone says, and now I can't unsee it. It's a really nice brown color with like a little bit of like a white stripe here happening, and yeah, you can see it's a little gingerbready, but it's a very cute sweater. And I haven't even washed it. I haven't woven in the ends. I need to do that in preparation for the coming like colder days. But look at that, pretty nice. Yeah, it's very short, you can tell. I mean, and I used to love cropped things, but now I want them just to be a little bit longer, and then if I need to like be in my pants, I'm gonna make room for it. I'm gonna like tuck it in. So I only had 3 skeins of this yarn, so about 300 grams, yeah. 300 grams, this is about I think it's a DK weight. And I was, again, playing yard chicken until the very last moment. I had to like decrease the length of the stitch ribbing, the length of the hand ribbing here, just so that I have enough yarn to finish the whole thing. And I used up every last bit of this yarn. I think I have just like a little bit left, but I like it. I like it so much. It's such a simple yet a little funky. Like maybe someone, like my dream, my absolute dream always is like someone goes to me like, hey, nice sweater, where'd you get it? And I'm like, I made it myself. That's like I love saying that. And I just want people to be like, oh, that's a bit of an unusual thing. Where'd you get that? And I'm like, these 2 hands, baby. So a really cute sweater. I feel like she has a pattern for a baby size, child size. This would look adorable on a kid, like a white with like all kinds of like these little bubble things on it. Amazing. I love it so much. Actually, I'm so sad that I didn't knit this sooner. But that was started then and finished recently. While we're still on last year, I think my last knit of the year, last winter. No. I don't know why this keeps happening. Like my camera just decides it's enough talking for one day. We're at the final stretch, I feel like. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, one of the last sweaters that I knit last year was this one. Again I had a lot of acrylic, honestly, because it's affordable and I wanted to learn with yarn that's not precious. So I knit this little thing. Very funky, stripy thing. I feel like I even asked people on Instagram how to continue certain colors because I wasn't too certain. I really like how it turned out. It's just very warm because it's 100% acrylic. It kind of even makes me sweat. Like on a cold day, somehow I'm both really cold and really hot at the same time. So yeah, there is no short row shaping, which is not ideal, but at least it's pretty comfy. It's a pretty comfy sweater. I wear it with like a tank top again, or a t-shirt underneath, and yeah, it's pretty good. Again, very short sleeved. But this is kind of like a problem on my calculated part, because I was like, each of these stripes needs to be exactly like 10 rows or 15 rows. So it wouldn't make sense for all of a sudden here to have like one giant other block of color. But yeah, this is this one. I think I called it the Happy Camper. It's just a raglan. I don't know. It starts from the top with a random amount of stitches and it finishes at the bottom. enough to fit around my hips with a little bit of positive ease. Yeah, pretty good. And around that time, like I always have like at least like 3 sweaters at all times. I fear that if I don't, I'm gonna get into a ditch and want to knit something, but there will be nothing available, and then I'll have to like research, and I don't feel comfortable with having like ongoing things. I feel like I want to have ongoing projects all the time, and that's also the same with all my other like hobbies and even work sometimes. So yeah, there's that. The final sweater that I knit last year, or rather last winter, is this one. This is the first sweaters yarn that I made that same summer Ella solo, the one with the leaves. I'm gonna insert a picture again if you've forgotten. And this is the yarn that got repurposed into that, and this is called the Arbusto, I think, if I'm saying it right. I think it's Spanish, or it's like a Spanish creator who made this pattern, and it has these bubbles. And I love them so much. Look at them. They're so goofy, they're so cute. And it's a sweater that's knit, so the outside, the face of it is in purl stitches, but you actually knit it, make it on the knit side in the round, and you make these like bubbles, and then you pop them onto the reverse, and you get this like really cute little piece. And I feel like this yarn was perfect for it. I feel like the yarn that the creator had chosen was also a very similar color, and I was in love with it. I like this like smoky tobacco kind of look. And I think I call this, like I also name my own sweaters, even though they have a pattern, I name them something they remind me of, and this one reminds me of lentil soup. What? This sweater is probably my best constructed garment yet. It looks the same as when I've knitted. It's 50% wool and 50% acrylic, so it holds up well in the washing machine. But yeah, it fits me great. It's a right size everywhere. I'm so happy with it. Nobody's ever asked me about if I've made it. Maybe this year. Maybe we can get on this year, boy. So yeah, this is it. And while I have a lot of ongoing sweaters that I plan to complete in these coming months, hopefully, I also completed a small little cardigan, which is another petite knit, which is called the Champagne cardigan. But I altered the gauge quite a bunch because I had a yarn that was very, I think it goes for a worsted weight, and I had like something like a sport weight, which is what this yarn is, and it ended up turning well. I also again only had like three 100-gram skeins of it, so I also had to be cropped. New Year's resolution this year is gonna be buy at least half a kilogram of yarn if you're making a big sweater, for myself at least. And if something is left over, you can always make a hat and gift it to someone. You can make mittens, you can make socks, something. Just have enough yarn, because this is gonna destroy me one of these days. I'm knitting another cardigan, much like the Champagne cardigan. I'm knitting another cardigan right now, and I only have 400 grams of it, and I'm busting my brain trying to, like, foretell how much it might take me and where I can nick a little bit of like centimeters, so that my sleeves come out properly long, properly wide, maybe like something like these. I need to make them something like this, and then the body is like roomy enough. I like at least a bit of like at least like 10 centimeters of positive ease, or 7 or 8, something like that. I don't like being constructed like that little shrinking situation we had with the no frill sweater. So yeah, this is the final thing that I'm going to show. It is my only existing cardigan that I wear right now, and it's a very good one. I'm really happy with it. It kills a little bit because it's like a blend of acrylic and wool mohair, something like that. It needs a change of buttons because I'm not a fan of these wooden buttons that I have, so I need to sit down like tonight or something and just change it into the like a plastic acrylic, like sort of those tortoise shell colored buttons I have planned out for it. But yeah, this is another very successful, much loved like top that gets a lot of wear, and honestly it's so warm. This is why I want a lot more wool into my wardrobe, because it's warm, it keeps fresh for a long time, it feels light. I just really enjoy it, and it's much like everyone else who starts knitting for the first time. You kind of gravitate towards those like very flashy color work, dots, texture, chunkiness sweaters, and then you kind of realize, yeah, I do need like simple basics. I need to have things that are easily combinable with everything else that's not very extra in my wardrobe. So yeah, I'm knitting, I'm looking at it, it's over there. I'm knitting another cardigan much like this one, but instead of like just knit stitch all around, the sleeves are seeded, I think it's called a seeded rib stitch. And yeah, that's pretty much the only alteration. I'm knitting it in a size extra small because I want to conserve all the yarn, and petite knits sizing tends to be very much on the oversized. So I'm hoping I get something like this in fit, or maybe like a little bit smaller, and nicely like proportionate lengthwise in terms of the sleeves, in terms of the body. I want a little bit longer, and let's see how it goes. I might show you a little bit later where I am with that. I feel like I need to make a dedicated video for all of my ongoing things. I have at least four sweaters. I have two cardigans and two sweaters that are on my needles right now, and I got into socks recently, so I have a lot of socks like strewn about, like just the one sock made and the second one's not started, or like half a sock. Just wanting to learn how the heels are made, construction, thicknesses, color work, patterns. What is that? When you knit one strand like light color, one strand dark color, and you just alternate them, and then there's no jog. Helix? I think it's a helix pattern. I want to learn that as well. I want to make my own socks because I'm noticing that I actually really enjoy woolen socks, especially for the winter. And I stay inside so much throughout the day that it's only natural to have like home socks and be warm and cozy. So yeah, if you enjoy this, I'll take you along for the ride. If you don't, this is gonna just be here, you know, like I'm gonna talk. Nobody else will listen. I will talk to the camera. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you come by next time so I can not talk to myself and gush about yarn with you. And maybe you can recommend me stuff. Maybe you can give me some pointers and tips on how to not be so chaotic when it comes to unfinished projects. Or maybe I'm just like real charismatic that way. Like it's a characteristic trait of mine to have like everything at the same time all of the time. Isn't there a song like that? Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for sticking by so long. Bye!